Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. I wrote a newsletter this morning and it brought up 2 points that I really want to dig into. The first one is let's talk about the lies our parents and teachers told us to get cooperation from us. This is a really hot topic that no one's really putting a scope on, and it really needs to be addressed. We were told to go to school when we were children. And every day, many of us fought our parents and said, why do I have to go? And they made up these bullshit lies to get an education, so you can make money, so you can be happy, so you can have your dreams. They talked about a life that we are not living. They lied to us. This is bad marketing. If this were a business, we would sue our parents and teachers for false advertising. And the only reason why they did this was to literally get our cooperation. And that deceit, that lie, really sits deep at the heart of so many of us, and we're not talking about it. And it's one that I really made amends with when I was, well, between the ages of 4 and 12. By the time, I'm going to make this very clear. The lies that I was told were so abysmally illogical, or I was so logical, I have yet to figure out which, that by the time I was 4 to 12 years old, I'd figured out that they were lying to me. And I knew not to trust them. My parents, all of my teachers, I knew it. I knew by the time I was 12 that I had to triple check sources because they all were lying to me. Adults lie. And that was a lesson I learned from 4 to 12. So I collected the data, I reviewed it, and over again, I'm like, wow, you're all lying to me. So I learned how to check data at a very young age to see who was lying to me. And that is when I started to build and weave this truth thread so that I could always compare to see who is lying to me. It's a really awesome skill. I teach it to people. It's one of the skills that I cover in my courses. So when they told me the bullshit of you have to go to school because, I knew it was bullshit, because I was watching my father be miserable. And I knew he had received the same education that I was getting. And I watched my siblings go through the same process, only they weren't studying logic and they were not at the school of Greek educational, or the Greek educational system. I was. So I watched my educational system and I watched them in theirs. I had 3 siblings, which gave me 3 data points, which was phenomenal. So I was able to sit at my place and watch while I assessed the 3 points of data. And I watched the deterioration of the education with my brother, and then my sister, and then my younger brother. And I went, fascinating. Look at the data. And I watched the deterioration and the decline of the educational system as my siblings literally became less and less educated. Fascinating data. Meanwhile, I was learning from the Greek educational system. I have to clarify, ancient Greek educational system. I have no idea what Greece uses today. I just know that I have the ancient Greek educational system. When I was watching this, one of the questions that I frequently asked every adult was, how is the education different today from when you were a child? And every teacher, every adult said the same thing. It's pretty much the same. So the education that they received in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s was all identical. It had not changed. Meanwhile, I'm watching children get more uneducated. So I'm looking at this data. And one of the things that really stood out was while I'm looking at my father's misery level and every other adult's misery level, to the point where I watched the movie Joe versus the Volcano. If you have not seen the movie, watch the movie. I'm watching Joe versus the Volcano in the 1990s. It was like 1990 when I'm watching this thing. And I remember I was horror-struck. I was terrified. When I saw this movie, it scared the fucking shit out of me. And it was the most terrifying movie. I was watching a horror movie. It was the day job. And I asked my dad with horror, is this real? Is this really what it's like? And my dad said, yep, it is exactly like that. And I thought, and you want me to go to school to learn how to do that? This is when I was 10 years old. This is why by the time I was 12, I had decided, oh, fuck that shit, because I'd watched Joe versus the volcano. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. So I'm watching it, and I'm watching this misery. And then I'm watching my dad come home miserable from his job day after day. And I'm going, why do I have to go to school? You have to go to school so you can get a job. You want me to go to school so I can get a job like Joe and Joe versus the volcano? Are you fucking kidding me? You want me to go to school so I can be like Joe in Joe versus the volcano? The same job that you said was miserable. The same job where you come home and you are miserable as fuck. That's what your dreams are for me? No, 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 I'm done. So by the time I was 12, I had found a different educational system because I knew that the educational system that they were providing me would end up in Joe versus the volcano. So if you go to the educational system where everyone goes, you will end up like Joe versus the volcano. Basic mathematics and logic, if you want a different action from your chain reaction, do something different. So I went, oh, I need a different educational system because fuck that shit. So the educational system that we have today is literally equal to the job of Joe versus the volcano. Now, if you are all down for that, well, okay. But if you are not, you're going to require a different educational system. That's when I pursued the ancient Greek educational system, and that's where I went. So I accumulated all of this data. I continued to study. The first 20 years of my life, I studied education. And then the next stage of my life, I studied business. And while I was studying education and business, I studied philosophy, psychology, and physics. But I'm going to really clarify this. I learned these lessons from Plato, from the ancient Greek educational system. I did not learn these from the traditional education system. So I did not get the watered down version that the government said you were allowed to look at. I got the stuff that Plato gave me. So I'm looking at the education system. I'm looking at business for 20 years. I put together philosophy, psychology, physics, and I went, all right, I know what I want to be when I grow up. Now, this brings us to the question of the other point is, well, you have they just wanted our cooperation. So they 100% told us all this bullshit lie of you do A, you do B, and you will get C. You go to school and learn, you work hard, and you will be rich. How many of you learned? Raise your hands. Did you go to school and learn just like they said? Okay. Did you work hard just like they promised? Did you work hard? All right then. Now, are you rich? Are you happy? Are you successful? Because that was the promise they made. Learn, work hard, and you will be rich and successful. I remember this lecture from every parent from the 80s. You just go to school and work hard, and you will be somebody great someday. Go to school and work hard. Well, that formula does not equal rich. If you go to school and you work hard, that formula actually equals mentally ill, unhappy, most likely with an addiction, and enslaved to the rat race. That is that formula. Go to school, work hard, and you will end up mentally ill, unhappy, with an addiction, and part of the slave race. There you go. So now I'm sitting here looking at it going, I've studied slavery. On a level have I studied slavery. And there's two things that I noticed with slavery. One was the work hard. All slaves work hard. The wealthy people don't work hard. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? Wealthy people don't work hard. The other side of that is the education and the learning. Now, did I mention I studied from Plato? I know education. I know education. I have a lot to say about that. We're just going to shelve it because that's like a 4-hour masterclass. Ooh, I should do that. A 4-hour masterclass on breaking down everything that is actually education. But for now, let's just safely assume that learning and going to school is not education. Not even a little bit, because you're not rich. Bottom line. I will say this. All the slaves, all of them, had incorrect information, including me. Now, I was different. This is interesting. When you have 30 plus years in mastered proficiency in something, depending upon what the proficiency is, it's going to determine how well you can manage any kind of a situation. If you have the wrong skill, then you are not going to be able to navigate a certain situation. So a skill falls into two categories: versatility and non-versatility. Now, we are taught that academic disciplines are either versatile or non-versatile. This is wrong for education. That's wrong. An academic discipline is neither versatile nor non-versatile. That is not at all a component in academic discipline. A skill is versatile or non-versatile. And there's the difference. If you've learned with proper education from Plato and the Greek educational system, the very first lesson you learn is academic discipline is irrelevant. That's all about you and your personality. That has nothing to do with success. Academic discipline means jack and fucking shit. That's all about your identity. The skills are what determines versatility. So you have to make sure you learn the right skills, because if you learn the wrong skills, you are not going to have versatility. The arts provide a vast versatility of skill, a vast versatility. Logic provides the most versatility, the most versatility. Philosophy is the most versatility. You learn philosophy, you learn logic skill, and you will have such an insane level of versatility, you can literally do anything. Do you know what's lacking from our educational system? Logic and philosophy. They did that on purpose. Because when you have zero versatility, you have zero choice. So the next thing that was done was how a person learns. How a person learns is not new knowledge. Plato had that figured out in the ancient Greek times. I'm going to set that over there. Edgar Dale, who did not have access to Plato's curriculum, decided to just reverse engineer his own concepts, and he came up with something called the learning scope, or the scope of learning. He got this information in the 1960s. It proves that in order to learn, you require 4 things: theory, which is philosophy, which is not taught; application, technique of skill, which is not taught; application in real life, which is not taught; and discussion, which is not done. Lecture, reading, and memorization is done. Lecture doesn't teach, not at all. They've proven this. Look at Edgar Dale's scope of learning. Lecture doesn't work. Reading only retains 10% of the knowledge, and it's forgotten in 2 weeks. So what you really are learning in school is the memorization skill and nothing else. If you were not completely embedded in the art department, then you did not learn anything except the memorization skill. The memorization skill has zero versatility unless you are an actor. So if you are in theater and stage, you're set, you're great. You can go be an actor. But you're going to need other skills in order to pull that off, like public speaking, oratorial, and the abstract and the arts with imagination and a foundation in music, song, dance. If you don't have that foundation, then the skill memorization, if you are not an actor, then the skill memorization is garbage. It is literally the least important skill in existence. And that is the skill that we are actually taught in traditional education systems. We get 12 years of this. We are all highly proficient and masters of memorization. I remember being 13, 14, having to memorize science facts for my biology course. And I'm sitting here writing out everything, and we actually analyzed and reverse engineered how to most effectively, we all did this, right? How to most effectively memorize shit. So we were all making up flashcards. We were using visualization aids to memorize shit. I remember the memorization cards very, very, I don't remember anything on the memorization cards, but I remember the memorization cards. I remember analyzing the most effective ways to master the memorization skill, realizing that flashcards are the most highly effective when partnered up with imagination and clear, simple theory. So I remember partnering image and drawing and art with simplicity of theory, putting them together and then putting them on a card and then being able to learn that way. So by the time I was 13 and 14, I had mastered the art of memorization. Now, again, theater, stage, so woohoo for me. Are you in theater and stage? Because if you're not, you've got a useless skill, which is why all of us are regurgitating a bunch of stupid information from the internet. Because that's the only thing we all can do, is literally just repeat shit from the internet. That's all we do all day long. Every one of us. All 8 billion of us. We just regurgitate shit that we learned and memorized. Not learned, memorized. Learning is not memorizing. You're not an actor, most likely, so you probably don't know this. Memorization is not learning. If you ask an actor, is there a difference between learning and memorizing? The actor will say, oh God, yes, there is. But most people are not into theater. If you were, then the memorization skill would be really advantageous for you. But if you're not into memorization, if you're not into acting in theater and stage, you not only have a useless skill, you also lack a vital understanding that memorization and learning are not the same thing. Ask an actor. I'm an actor, so I will tell you, they are not the same thing. Learning is when you integrate a skill into your intuition in a hobby or habitual format. It has to become a habit. That's stage one of learning. It's an integration of a habit into the intuition to turn it into a habit. That's why it takes 30 to 40 days. It takes 30 to 40 days if it's inconvenient to your life. If you inconveniently practice it, it takes 30 to 40 days. Most of us learn skills in 30 to 40 days because it's inconveniently applied, like running on a treadmill. That is an inconvenient method of habitual skill building. Practice, practical. In order to actually integrate something into you, it has to be applicable to your life on a practical level, which is what practicing the skill is. You do that 3 days, not 30, 3. Because your natural brain will go, oh, well, we do X, and then 3 days later, and poof, it is. It is such a part of our learning system that our brain knows how to find it if you feed it. We're not feeding our brains properly because we weren't taught how to learn. And because we weren't taught to learn, we were taught to memorize. We're not thinking. Memorization is the most useless skill in the world, unless you're an actor. It is such a useless skill unless you're an actor. So we've got a lot of non-actors learning an acting skill that they're never going to use because that is how they were trained for 12 years while they were in school. Now let's flip all this around. Let's dissect and go back to our parents lying to us and telling us that if you work hard and if you go to school, you're gonna be something someday. Well, did you go to school? Yes. Did you work hard? Yes. And are you happy? No, I'm fuck miserable. Maybe your formula is broken. Maybe your formula is broken. Furthermore, you're not actually learning. What you're learning is the memorization scale. So actually, the right formula is if you learn memorization and if you work hard, you will grow up to be mentally ill, unhappy, addicted to something most likely, and part of the slave race. And that's the difference. So let's flip this around. If you actually have a versatile education with nutritional knowledge, and if you know how to strategically apply that with deliberation, then you'll be rich. That's the actual formula. Strategically apply it with deliberation. But you have to have a versatile scale. You have to have many versatile scales. That's what Plato taught. That is exactly what Plato taught. So, because Plato taught me that formula, I went, you know what I really need to know is education. Because, I have to know how to learn. And that is like the most important skill there is learn how to learn, which is the very first course, the very first thing that Plato teaches everybody is, I'm going to teach you how to learn. So he taught me how to learn. When I was 12, I learned how to learn. And then I had the ability to assess what I needed to learn. And I went, well, if I want to learn business, if I want to be in the world with business, I got to learn business. So I decided to strategically select precisely what businesses I wanted to learn so I could figure out and dissect exactly how businesses work. So I did that for 20 years. So I studied education for 20 years, and then I studied business for 20 years. Now, had my teachers actually done this, they could have been teaching me this since I was 5. And that way, when I was 18, I would have the information at 18 that I have when I'm 40. Let's talk about that. Because we waste 20 years having to figure out and teach ourselves the lessons that our parents and teachers failed to teach us, we're actually not starting life until we're 40. Every 40-year-old knows this. Every 40-year-old knows this. You get to your 40s, you get to your 30s, and you go, what the fuck is going on? They lied to me. You get to 35 and you're pissed off. You go through a grieving stage, and then all the assholes in your life tell you you're having a midlife crisis. No, dip fucks. I'm not having a midlife crisis. Don't gaslight me. They lied to me. They told me that if I go to school and work hard, I'd be rich. And because I trusted those lying assholes, here I am at 35 going, why the fuck am I miserable? Oh, because they taught me the wrong information. And they lied to me so they could get my cooperation. So now I got to figure this shit out on my own. 10 years later, you finally figured it out. That is the real arc of life. Your parents and teachers lied to you for 20 years. You follow their shit formula of go to school, work hard, be rich. You do that. And then you get to the 20s and they tell you, okay, now you got 2 options. Oh, this pissed me off. 2 options. The easiest way to control someone is by giving them 2 options, precisely what you want them to do. All right. I am going to tell you that you have 2 options. We can either go to Ireland or Paris. And those are your travel options for the entire world. Ireland or Paris. Because I want to go to Ireland and Paris, so those are your options. But what if you don't want to go? What if you want the whole world? No, Ireland or Paris, those are your choices. Now, because they taught us the memorization scale for 20 years, we go, okay, all right, so my option is Ireland or Paris. I really don't want to do either, but all right, I guess I'll go to Paris, I guess. It's not really what I want to do at all, but all right. And that's what they do with, do you want to get a job or do you want to go to college? Because those are your options. Just college or job. Those are your options. Well, I really don't want to do either, but those are the options. Are they really the options though? Are they really the options? I was asking that when I was 15 and they handed me these are all the options. Well, I don't want to do any of those. Well, these are the choices. Are those really? I asked my superintendent this. I said, are those really my options? I said this to her. I was 15 because I didn't learn the memorization skill. I learned how to think. Thank you, Plato. So I'm sitting down with the HR department at my school, the superintendent person who's in charge of your life decisions, where your life is going to take you. And I get in there and she hands me this little, it's literally half a sheet. It is literally like this much. And she says, slides it across the table and she says to me, these are your life choices. Which of these do you want to do? And I looked at it and I said, are these really all the jobs that is available in the entire world? And she goes, yep. I don't want to do any of these. Are these really all my, and I remember going, well, I'm not going to do any of this. Fuck that shit. Well, if you want to go to college, but I don't want to go to college. Why would I want to go to college? I've got Plato. Why would I ever want to go to college? Well, if you want to be rich, yeah, I've done my research. I watched Joe versus the Volcano. I did my research. I asked all the people in my life, and they all went to college. They all worked hard, and they are all impoverished and miserable. So your formula doesn't work. And now you're handing me this garbage list telling me that those are all of the options? I know it's bullshit because I know, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And then the abuse, when your teachers, I don't know if you guys know this. This is what I went through. This is when I talked to everybody. I talked to my children about this. Everybody, ask your children. If you tell your teachers and parents that you're not going to choose college or a job, no, specifically a college, the abuse from the teachers is inhumane. They condescend and they abuse you if you choose not to go to college. Oh, well, you're going to be flipping burgers for the rest of your life. Or I'm going to go figure out a proper way to get my education because you guys suck. They abused the hell out of me. I was one of 2 students in the entire school who made it very clear, I'm not going to college. Oh, their entire thing was, you got to go into college. You got to go. Now I know why. It's because if a child goes from high school over to college, they get X amount of dollars from the government to make sure that they literally get X amount of dollars from the government to ensure, like as a reward for how many children go on, because it raises the value of the school. X amount of children from this school went on to be X amount in these universities. And the universities and the government have a deal going that if the government can get the schools to do X amount of students going to the educational department in the colleges will then reward the government X amount of dollars. So they have an incentive to make sure that the schools that they run make sure that they groom the children to go to college. So when I said, I'm not going to college, they slandered me, they abused me, they called me names. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? You're my teachers. Around that same year, I wrote an entire thesis, a 500-page term paper on the inadequacy of the U.S. government educational system, citing Thomas Sowell on all the sources, along with my own research and the Greek educational system for a control group so I could compare and show them, you can't do your job. They canceled the paper and I got in trouble. But anyway, so I went on to, oh my God, I love that paper so much. I was so proud of it too. I was like, oh yeah, I love that paper. So this is it, is you get out in life and you have no direction. You have no idea. You feel so lost because they didn't do their job. So that by the time you're 30 to 35, and you figure out, wow, I am not happy. I did everything they said, and I am fuck miserable and poor. And so you spend the next 10 years of your life fixing your mental health, trying to figure out what you're doing, resetting everything, telling all the assholes to shut the fuck up, and mom, sit down. You don't know what you're doing with parenting, clearly, because here I am 40 having a midlife crisis because you didn't do your job. You lied to me to get me to cooperate so I would get out of the house so you didn't have to parent me. Welcome to the 80s. So you're finally in your 40s and you realize, all right, now I'm finally where I want to be in life. Why is it taking us 40 years to finally get the lives we want? Because we're wasting 20 years by a stupid system telling us that we have to do what they want for 20 years. And it takes us another 10 years to figure out that they lied to us and another 10 years to actually get on track. Ergo, it only takes 10 years to actually get yourself where you want to go once you know where you want to go. My mother is calling. No, I'm going to sit here and work. So when you are finally at that position where you realize, wow, once I figured out what the problem was and I took matters into my own hands, it only took me 10 years. So this is where I want to say to parents who have their children, who are assessing this. If you are a parent of a young child, here is the overall summation of the life lesson that's really, really vital to their success. The purpose of learning is self-knowledge. The reason why we learn is to discover the self. So the self can decide what the self wants to do and where the self wants to go. In order to do that, the self requires a basic number of skills, very simple: logic, problem solving, and deductive reasoning. That's all you need, which is part of logic. Once you have those skills, then they are able to make their own logical assessment to figure out precisely where it is they want to go without any influence from everybody. It takes no time at all because they know how to mathematically calculate and project and make plans and layouts. It takes a couple of years to learn, at least, or I'm sorry, at most. After you have that out, they're able to plot their own life course based off of what they want. They know how to tune into themselves so they know who they are and what they want. And it is the selection of the skills and the academic disciplines that shape them into who they want to be. It takes imagination and creativity when it's all done and said to say, all right, these are the skills. This is what I love. Now, how do I turn that into a business? And suddenly they are creating really weird new shit that doesn't even exist as they create new ideas for jobs, new ideas for problems, for problem solving, new solutions. And then they know how to implement that into practice because they have the skills for it. So when you are actually knee-deep into your educational program, what you are really supposed to be doing is figuring out who you are by choosing the skills and the academic disciplines that you want to learn. Education and learning how to learn is the first one, which is logic and mathematics. That is not going to get you anywhere if you do not have imagination and creativity, which is 100% all that the arts do. You cannot do this without the arts. The arts are the foundation. Fun fact, in Plato's educational system, he gave you 9 arts to master and 5 sciences. 9 arts. The reason why is because physics, math, logic are embedded into the arts. Communication, human connection, circuitry, translation, networking, it's all in the arts. You take out the arts and you literally strip out the entire academic discipline. There's nothing left. Nothing is left. You can't do anything without the arts. The science is literally the cherry on top to the arts because science is in the arts. Music is physics and frequency. It's math. It's rhythm. It's meter. It's how to measure things, for God fucking sakes. When you write out music, it's called a measure. Literally, it's called a measure. The staff music is measuring because you measure the meter in which the rhythm occurs. It's measurement. Like, it's music. Music is math, logic, physics. But music is the application of math, logic, physics. Singing and dancing is the application of geometry and physics. You learn centrifugal force when you dance. You learn centrifugal force when you dance. Believe me, I know all about physics when it comes to dancing. I was dancing one time and I did a massively high kick and I slid out and then came right down onto my ankle and I snapped my ankle. 6 months I couldn't walk. I know all about physics and centrifugal force because of dance. That's the kind of shit you don't learn at a textbook. You want to know physics? Dance. Yeah, you learn everything when you come to, yeah, dance teaches you physics fast. Dance teaches you physics real fast. Painting, drawing, and sculpting teaches you geometry, hands-on. It is the application. Theater, stage teaches you communication, public speaking, reading, writing. This is in application. These are the skills that you need. This is chemistry. Cooking is chemistry. And when you start doing the arts, when you do nothing but the arts, you are actually applying the math, the language. You are applying, well, logic, the language. You are applying the rules, physics, the recipes, chemistry, in applications to life, biology, which is the arts. You take away the arts, and that's like taking the bowl, the food ingredients, and the tools and the stove away from a cook. You take away the arts, and you've literally taken the kitchen away from the cook and said, sorry, you can't cook. You can go read this book instead. Really, wrap your head around this. You take away the arts, and it is equivalent to sitting a chef down and saying, okay, you're going to learn how to cook? Here's this book. There. Memorize those recipes. So you sit there and you just memorize the recipes all day long. You're just memorizing recipes. You are practicing the memorization skill. You are not practicing the cooking skill. You are not practicing biology. You are not practicing mathematics. You are not practicing chemistry. You are practicing memorization because you are reading a cookbook and you are memorizing the theory. The teacher will stand up there and talk to you all about the history of cooking, who created what, when, and where, over what war. You have to memorize who did what and when, but you will never taste an apple pie. Learning is experience. And traditional educational systems take the experience and the application out of education. And Plato's going, what the fuck? You're not going to learn if you don't have experience and application. Experience and application is 100% learning. Cooks and chefs know this. That's why the very first thing they do is throw you into a kitchen. There's no textbooks. They don't give you textbooks. They give you the textbook, and 2 days later, they're like, oh, let's go cook. You want to learn how to do something, you fucking do it. But only chefs really got this memo. Only cooks got this memo. No one else did. Scientists got the memo. Scientists know. You can't do chemistry, you can't do physics without being put into a lab on day one, which is why when you do science, there's a laboratory next to you and you have 2 science classes because you do the theory and then you do the practice and the doing. But the arts is communication. You take away the arts and you can't talk. You can't self-express, you can't understand, you can't comprehend, you can't connect with human beings. But that's what they've done. They've taken away the arts. So now, no matter how great we might get with our physics and chemistry, we can't communicate to each other to say, hey, I got an idea. The grief of understanding how manipulated we were by the people we trusted the most, just so they could get our cooperation, so they could manipulate us into only 2 options of life, college or a job, and then being deprived of our own life journey. And that's it. You have a life journey, and in order to make the most out of your life journey, you've got to have a learning journey first. The learning journey is the life journey with training wheels. But your learning journey is 100% about what do you want to study? What's your academic discipline? What skills do you want? What is your learning experience going to be? How are you going to pursue your education? What education do you want? Who are you? You don't get to know this until you do a learning journey. After you do the learning journey, you get to enjoy your life journey. But the educational system and our parents aren't allowing us our learning journey. They are disrupting our learning journey by the time we are 4 years old and doing their own goddamn thing, taking away our learning journey. So by the time we are 30, we're going, what the fuck? We have to go do the learning journey that they didn't give us. So life doesn't begin until you're 35 because your parents and teachers have stolen the first 35 years of your life. the first 20 years with making sure you cooperate and they can manipulate you with bullshit choices. And the next 10 years, well, you stumble around your own mental illness trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong and why you don't know yourself. You don't know yourself because you never went on your learning journey because they stole it from you. So by the time you figure this out, you're 35 and unhappy. You finally get your shit straightened out because you finally pursue your learning journey, which takes no more than 10 years. It just takes 10 years, which means 10-year-olds can be living a happy life, being wealthy, rich, and prosperous at 10, if mom and dad would get the fuck out of our way. So here you are with your learning journey. Your life journey is the joy of you getting a pirate ship, sitting on that pirate ship and going, all right, where do I want to go next? It's your adventure. The learning journey and then the adventure. And that's life. And the sooner you realize this, the sooner you figure it out, the sooner you can start steering your life in the direction that you want it to go. And if mom and dad know this, mom and dad figure this out, your job is to help your children get their learning journey, not the one the society says they should be on. Ask the questions. What information do I really need to know to be happy in life? Because go to school, work hard to get rich is a lie. It's bullshit. 100% bullshit. All they are learning is memorization. This is the part of my own skill where I don't know how to close it. It's that very abrupt, all right, I'm done. Thank you, goodbye. And I still don't know how to transition from way up high on a lecture. It's so funny because sometimes I'm like, all right, let us pray. And I was like, God damn it. That's my religious upbringing. I get to that moment, all right, let us pray. And I'm like, God damn it, it's such a great segue. But, and I think about it, should we meditate now? Should we meditate? Let's meditate. Deep breath in and deep breath out. Deep breath in. And out. I remember always how stiff I felt when there was that sitting there listening to that dry lecture for X amount of hours. And then let us pray. And then you have to stand and sing. And it's like, oh my God, this is painful. And it was the transition from dry lecture. Actually, it was very entertaining sometimes. I studied the way he spoke and the ups and lows. And I'm like, wow, look at his oratorial skills. I wonder why he does it that way. Well, that was me. That was me. I know why he does it that way. I know exactly why he does it that way. I know exactly why they do it that way. So no, that's my calendar. That's like, I got a meeting on June 3rd. Thank you. Got my daughter here. Just give me a minute. House. Hours for what? How many hours am I going to be with this? Praying. How many hours did we have to listen? 4 hours. My daughter never went to church, so she doesn't know. We started at, there was a 9 a.m. morning service, and then there was an 11 a.m. morning service, and then we were done by 1 p.m. Yep, that's right. Every Sunday, yeah. She's like, I thought church was 10 minutes. No, honey, no. I wish. 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. Yeah, 4 hours. Yep. Yep. It was fucking hell. Yep. It was fucking hell. You get Sunday school, which was 9 to 11. And then you had the adult service, which was 11 to 2. And it was the most grueling. It was slow torture. And then you sang and you read from the Bible in a group as one. Why? Why? So yeah, that's something I never understood, was always why we had to read scripture, all of us, and at the same time. I'm like, why? I want to talk about that. Why did we all have to read the same? I remember one day, the Bible verse he had chosen had the word jackass in it. And I wasn't allowed to swear. Assholes. Oh, I was so pissed. So I'm sitting here reading, and we get to that moment, and the entire congregation went ass, and I went, and I couldn't say the word. My dad chuckled, and I'm like, what? Why do you think this is funny? You all just swore. It was so hilarious. It was so hilarious. And I was just like, it is a sin to swear. It is unethical to swear. But you all just swore. And oh my God, I could not I could not figure out why jackass was okay for the pastor to say and the whole congregation, but asshole was not. Why? What does this make sense to you? Jackass and asshole. This is okay. This is not. Is it whole? Is whole a bad word? It must be the whole. It must be the whole. I'm watching Stranger Things with my daughter. And we get to the end of it. Well, no, there's the kids are like dropping swear words left and right, and the adults are going, oh. And the way I'm seeing it, I have the opposite in my household. In my household, I have a rule that the children are not allowed to swear until they turn 18 years old. And the reason why is because if you are in a professional setting, you need to be consciously aware of when you swear. And if you are raised with swearing, you're not going to be aware of when you swear. You need to be conscious of it so that you can turn it on and off. And so at 18 years old, my children have full liberty to swear, so long as they don't weaponize the swearing. They're allowed to swear. And if they are going through a hard time and they swear when they're upset, that's like I'd rather they communicate than worry about their swearing. And sometimes my daughter will be flustered and she'll like, can I swear? Absolutely. Communicating is more important. So then she'll swear and she'll get it all out. And it's like, okay. And they rarely weaponize it. They almost never weaponize it. So they can swear if they, if it's within the setting and if there's a point where I need to communicate and I'm like, oh, communication is more important than profanity. So we're watching Stranger Things and Dustin will be sitting there saying things, swearing. The kids will drop a swear word and the father will go, language. And I'm like, that's right. I forgot. I'm sorry. You're not allowed to hear swearing. And now it's like in my head every time and a child swears and the adult's like, oh no. Oh, that's right. The adults are not allowed to be around swearing. I forgot. It's okay. And it's that mentality, like changing it around is like, it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see the relationship and how swearing is changing in our culture. And I remember this. I remember it so strongly, the jackass and the asshole. And I'm like, so the word whole, and that's it. Every time I hear the word whole, I'm gonna be like, that's a swear word, right? Because you can say jackass, but you cannot say asshole. And so math says that whole is the swear word. So don't say whole. It's the 4-letter word. If you are ready to activate the next action in this chain reaction, click on the link below. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.